Alright, so there's been a lot of news going on very, very recently that I, of course, really wanted to talk about in this video. Now, as most of you guys will probably know by now, yes, I am a big MCU fan. Yes, I'm a big Star Wars fan. But something that I've always kind of, not necessarily kept quiet, but kept kind of maybe more hidden is the right word, not because of I was embarrassed to be one, but because I kind of hated being one, and that is, of course, a DC fan. Now, I've been a fan of a lot of the DC movies over the years, you know, the Batman, of course, the Dark Knight, Man of Steel, right? A couple of these movies, for example, but I've also been one of those people that have hated a lot of the DC movies for a long time. You know, first of all, I'll get into a couple, just to name a few. I felt like the first people to come out and shame the fuck out of Black Adam on YouTube. Of course, being Australian, we get to see the movie a day or two early, and yes, I thought it was one of the worst pieces of shit I have almost ever seen. I think most people did, considering the movie failed, and failed that bad, James Gunn got hired and decided to reset the fucking thing and fire everyone. That's how bad that shit failed. But then a couple other movies here and there as well I wasn't fan of. I also didn't like the direction that they were taking. I couldn't understand why we never had a Man of Steel 2. I never understood why we never got more build-up movies before the Justice League, etc, etc, etc. And of course, I was one of those big people advocating, saying that even though I love Henry Cavill as Superman and as the Man of Steel himself, it was pretty clear that the DC universe needed a reset, a new universe needed to be created that was outside of the DCAU. And it looks like, of course, the man, the myth, the legend, James Gunn, who's been recently appointed as CEO, has of course done that. He has announced it will be a new universe, even announcing a couple of new movies, which I am incredibly excited to talk about today. Again, he also mentioned some really awesome things as well, like even though the DCAU will no longer be continuing, it won't actually be a waste of time. Even though the Flash movie and Aquaman, all of them are, you know, coming out, although some people might have said they're going to be relevant because they're not going to be part of the new universe, well, he's basically said, no, really, Aquaman is kind of his own guy. He doesn't really interact with any of the other characters anyway, so it doesn't really matter if they make a sequel to that. Very similar case to Shazam. But then, of course, you know, the Flash being able to, looks like, you know, potentially travel through different universes could also imply that some of those characters could maybe one day come into the new DC universe. So I thought that was pretty cool. But enough about that. Let's get into the movies that they, of course, announced today. Now, I'm going to of course, refrain from really talking too much about Swamp Thing and that other movie that was announced, whatever the fuck it was called. Not because I'm not interested. I think Swamp Thing sounds really awesome. I know that's a more darker character that I've heard might get an MA-15 R-rated movie by James Gunn, so I'm interested in that. I just don't really know much about these characters. I don't feel like I'm educated enough to really talk about them, although I do feel like I'm educated enough to talk about the other 3 movies that were, of course, announced, plus one of the TV shows which I'm kind of interested in. I'm going to first of all start off with Superman Legacy. Now, of course, I really wanted Henry Cavill to remain as Superman. I thought he was perfect as Superman. I thought Man of Steel was one of the best DC movies released in the last 20 years, and I think most people were originally thought that. Some grew to think that. I think it's a pretty big consensus now that it is one of the best in the last 20 years. Probably my favorite DCEU movie. In fact, it is my favorite DCEU movie, I think. I really liked what they did with that character, and I thought a sequel to that really would have shown the hopeful side of Superman and would have developed him really nicely. We never got that, though, although it seems like this new Superman Legacy kind of will be somewhat like that. This new Superman Legacy will not be an origin movie. It will actually be a movie, well, it looks to me maybe kind of taking place in the middle of Superman's life. You know, he's been Superman for probably, I'm assuming, 5+ years by now. I think there was a rumor the character age will be potentially targeted to be around 26 to 30 is what I'm hearing. That really, it does kind of sound like a Man of Steel 2 when you read it out loud with that, except Henry Cavill is not coming back. It's a reset universe. Whatever, right? I'm actually really excited though that James Gunn is electing to make a new Superman movie and gonna restart it, because if a Man of Steel 2 were to come out in the next couple of years, it also kind of would have been weird to have a new Man of Steel movie come out like 13 plus years after the first one. The old DC team fumbled the bag there, but it's really gotten me hyped for this new Superman movie, and I really hope they get the casting right. I've heard a couple of different actors' names. Some are really weird, and some that I just don't know, like Jordan Elordi or something. I think that's how you say his name. I can't even remember. I've never seen him anything, but he was in that Euphoria show, or Euphoria, sorry, which a lot of people do watch, and he's an Aussie, so fuck it, why not? Maybe go for him. But yeah, I guess he just doesn't look like a Superman though. I'm not sure. I don't know how I would go with that casting. It's just really upsetting because Henry Cavill was so perfect, but I'm hoping James Gunn is I think a really good director from what we've seen. He still has a new movie coming out in Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which looks pretty good, but I'm hoping he picks the right guy for that. The second movie, I have a little bit more to talk about, and that is the new Batman movie called The Brave and the Bold. The Batman Part 2 also got announced with Robert Pattinson, a sequel to the first one. I'm very keen for that as well. I love Robert Pattinson's Batman. And to be honest, I know this might be controversial. I'm not saying The Dark Knight is not the best Batman movie. It, of course, probably is. It had a great performance by another Aussie in Heath Ledger. But I'm just saying that I actually think The Batman might be my favorite movie out of all the Batmans that I've seen. I don't necessarily know if that's controversial. I think most people have it in second place. To me, it's actually kind of my favorite. I really enjoyed the movie, and I loved exactly how its dark tone went. But it's really awesome because James Gunn, even though he knows that movie was extremely successful, and he's making a sequel to that, which is going to be in a different universe, he's not shying away from making a Batman in this new universe, which is really awesome, and something that I think is it can be considered dangerous, but I think it's really bold by James Gunn. He decided not to even put the Batman in the title, no Batman in the title at all, and just called it The Brave and the Bold, which I am really, really intrigued about, and I think this is going to be really awesome. It also is clearly shown that this Batman is going to be a different Batman that we haven't seen in a long time. He's not going to be young like Robert Pattinson, but he's not going to be like mature 40 to 45-year-old, however old Ben Affleck's one was supposed to be. This one, I've heard rumors, is going to be a potential 30 to 35-year-old Batman, which I think is going to be really, really awesome to see. A much more mature Batman. I think it's going to be cool. There's also The Brave and the Bold TV show, which I think this movie might be a little bit kind of based off. It's also going to be based off another comic, I believe. But essentially what is being reported by this is Bruce is going to find out he has a 10-year-old son or so who has been training to become kind of an assassin and all this stuff, where Bruce will eventually take him under his wing, be a father figure to him, make up for missed time, but of course turn him into his sidekick, if anyone still uses that word, Robin, which I think is going to be really awesome because we haven't seen a Robin on TV or movies, or mainly movies, sorry. I definitely think there's been on some on TV, but movies, I mean, in like 20 plus years, maybe even longer. Like, yeah, there was the one in The Dark Knight Rises, but does that count? Not really. So this is going to be a really awesome and completely different take than Robert Pattinson's Batman. Robert Pattinson's Batman is an individual Batman who's more of a detective, who is, might team up with Catwoman, something like that. This Batman is a matured Batman who's going to have a son, which, have we ever seen Batman have a son in movies? I'm not really too sure. Who he's going to train to be a Robin and all of this type of stuff. Not just that, apparently there's rumors that James Gunn has said that this is going to be a Batman movie that also expands the Bat family, so we could maybe see a Knights of Gotham themed type movie. Even though the game didn't do too well, I think the concept and idea of it is still pretty good and could be turned to a movie or a TV show, hopefully movie. Maybe we'll eventually get to see a Batgirl, obviously not the one that got deleted, obviously, right? So there's that movie, which I'm extremely excited for. I wouldn't say I'm the most excited for that movie, because I think I'm more excited for the Batman Part 2. meaning that I might actually say it's Superman Legacy. I'm really kind of intrigued to see how they're going to do a new Superman movie. But the third one is a complete different contrast from that Superman movie, actually called Supergirl, the Woman of Something. I can't remember the title, I'm not even going to lie. But essentially, this is going to be a different contrast because Kal-El, or, you know, Clark Kent, is going to come to Earth, get raised by a nice family in Kansas, learn how to be Superman, all of this type of stuff, not even knowing what's going on in Krypton and how it eventually ended and met its demise. While this Supergirl movie is going to be based off, apparently, a girl very similar to Superman who was sent away, but instead of being sent to a different planet, you know, so far away where she would spend a nice time with a nice family, apparently she's going to get sent by a near planet or something like that, where she will eventually watch the destruction of Krypton and all of that type of stuff, and watch all the people she loved basically die. So it sounds like a much different aspect. I'm really interested to see how they're going to handle this. I don't even know who they're going to cast for any of these roles, but of course I am very excited for them. The other two things people have doubted already, but like, you know, I think James Gunn has already proven he can take a bunch of nobodies who no one really cares about and turn them into a massive movie franchise in the Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm sure he can do the rest of the other not really big names that have already gotten their movie announcements. Why not? There's of course the Lanterns TV show. I think it would be cool. I would have rather it been a movie. I'm not always the biggest TV type of guy. Sometimes episodes just drag out way too much. I've always had that opinion. But hey, I'll be interested in it. I'll be intrigued and I'll have my eye open on the lookout. But yeah, I'm very interested to see how they all handle this. Definitely let me know who you guys think should be cast and all that type of stuff. I've got no idea on who I want for Batman. I've been saying this for a while. Maybe a new video on that. But yeah, that might come soon. Of course, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment your thoughts and opinions down below on what you guys think about these movies. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.